like you guys are playing for a college football playoff berth, just with the pressure of remaining undefeated. How do you keep the guys focused on the postseason goals in the future versus the immediate stress of the season?
Cam's just giving you what you want. He doesn't believe that. We live week to week. We got challenges this week as it pertains to playing the Ravens. We just need to go 1-0 this week. We don't bear any burden, if you will, or worry about cumulative records or what lies ahead. We're a group that lives 1 week at a time. We're singularly professionally focused, and that's where we are.
Stephen A., your Steelers 10-0 taking on the Ravens. We got another good Thursday night football matchup, guys. Stephen A., do you think this game is more about Pittsburgh or Baltimore, though?
I think it's more about the Ravens. I think it's more about us finding out who the Ravens are. They've got the number one rushing attack in football, obviously, because of Lamar Jackson. And they've got the second worst passing attack, arguably, because of Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has played in 10 NFL games this year, and he hasn't even thrown for 2,000 yards yet on the season. Ladies and gentlemen, that's less than 200 yards per game. That's not going to cut the mustard. Not in a conference that has Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson and Big Ben Roethlisberger. And if you want to give some props, not even Phillip Rivers with what he's doing in Indy, or Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee, or Josh Allen in Buffalo. Just look at all of these names that come before Lamar Jackson when it comes to throwing the football right now. So you got to find that out. More importantly than that, even though they're the third-ranked defense, all right, they're 16th against the rush, and they got pushed around and beat up by the Tennessee Titans this past weekend. And so in terms of their toughness, when you consider the games that customarily come associated with the Steelers going up against the Ravens, this is usually smash-mouth football, take no prisoners. You know what? You just leave it all out on the field. We ain't backing down from anybody. We're not getting pushed around. We're not going to have an A.J. Brown catch a pass and spin and get pushed into the end zone and bowled over like they did like what happened last week against Tennessee. The Steelers are not going to do that. That's the kind of attitude that the Ravens should have in this game. They should be committed to finding out who they are and what they're made of. It's not about the score in a game like this. It's about playing smash mouth football, making sure you don't get punked and showing your mettle. The Steelers are undefeated at 10-0. Even if they lost, okay, they would do a game where they lost or something like that. We know their defense is elite. We know that Big Ben Roethlisberger is an MVP candidate. We know that when he goes 5 wide with all of those receivers, with Juju Smith-Schuster and Claypool and James Washington and Deontay Johnson and all of these boys, we know how lethal of an offense they can be with their passing attack. We get all of that about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who the hell are the Baltimore Ravens? For the first time in damn near 2 decades, we're looking at them and saying, what the hell is their identity? There is no Ray Lewis. There is no Ed Reed. There is no Terrell Suggs. There's nobody like that. Somebody who is going to have to stand the hell up and show who the hell they are and what this organization is supposed to stand for. I'm a Steelers fan, so I'm good with it. But the bottom line is that if you're the Ravens, that's what this is about for you. This is about more than an outcome. This is about more than just a football game. This is you against the Steelers with an opportunity to remind the world who the hell you are traditionally as a franchise. To the Steelers, it's not just another game, but only because it's an AFC North battle. To the Ravens, their season is on the line, along with their mystique, at least at this moment in time.
You just proved my point for me. This is about the Steelers. And the reason is there's an undefeated team heading into Week 12 in a rivalry game. And you think it's about the other team, the 6-4 team. And you're a Steelers fan. And what that really speaks to is people don't believe the Steelers are special. They don't believe it. We're in Week 12, heading into Week 12, and they're undefeated. And people don't believe they're special. And they've beaten the Titans, and they've beaten the Ravens. And people don't believe this in the Steelers. Not really. Not really. They're number one on anyone's power rankings. Not on mine. I got the Chiefs. What about yours, Stephen A? They're number one. We're going to find out. Stephen's A-list coming up a little bit later. No, people don't believe in the Steelers. And yet that's why this game is about them. How special can they be? They're entering a rivalry game, the best one in football at the moment, where since the turn of this century, This century ain't as young as it used to be, right? We're in the third decade of this century already, and they've played each other going into this season 44 times. 44 times. You know what the record is in those 44 games? 22-22. It's as even as it can be. And the Steelers won the first game, which means that in a rivalry game, for the reasons you just pointed out, with all the questions about Lamar Jackson and who are the Ravens, this team that was practically unbeaten last year in Baltimore, but hasn't won a playoff game. Lamar looking like he's regressing, the league adjusting to Lamar Jackson, right? Take away the middle of the field and don't let him run to the outside. And he has not been able, and the coaching staff has not been able to adjust. Are the Steelers going to sweep the Ravens? Doesn't feel like they would in a season like this. Feels like the Steelers' first loss, you circle it on the calendar, that second Ravens game. Ravens aren't going to lose twice to this Steelers team. No, this is about the Steelers and a special team having a special season that still no one believes in. This game is more about Pittsburgh.
Well, listen, you can look at it that way. I can understand that. The reason why I don't view it that way, Max, is because to me, the only thing I'm thinking about is the Kansas City Chiefs when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think there's anything else standing in this team's way. I don't think there's anything else that should be standing in their way. The Steelers, to me, are a Kansas City Chiefs victory away from going to the Super Bowl. Plain and simple. Nothing else matters. I don't give a damn if they lose 2 or 3 games the rest of the way. I'm not concerned about anybody but the Kansas City Chiefs when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers can beat themselves against other people, but the Kansas City Chiefs is the one team that I believe the Steelers can bring their A game and still lose to that particular team.
Okay.
I don't see anybody else in the AFC doing that to them, which is why I'm not thinking about the Steelers right now. I'm thinking about the Ravens because the Steelers are 10-0. The Ravens, this season's on the line.
All right, Max, let me ask you this. The Steelers are a 4.5-point favorite. Do you think Big Ben Roethlisberger is still a top 5 quarterback at this point?
No, I don't. And through a lot of his career, he was. He was never usually a top 3, but a lot of times a top 5 quarterback. He wasn't quite Rodgers and Brady and Peyton and Drew Brees, and then Roethlisberger would round that out. Depending on the year, another guy might pop their head up. I don't think he's that anymore. He is having a remarkable comeback season, coming off a catastrophic injury, getting the ball out quickly, leading an undefeated team with a great defense, no doubt about it, and he has weapons, but leading an undefeated team throughout the season. And not just hanging around as a kind of like, well, he's good enough not to mess this up. He's making positive contributions. But guys, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. Let's just put those 3 aside. There are 2 more slots in the top 5. Are there any young quarterbacks who belong there instead of Roethlisberger? Well, what do you think? There's a kid in Arizona who plays pretty well, who I'd put ahead of Roethlisberger right now, in Kyler Murray. And when he's healthy, and he's expected back at the end of this season, and he was way up there in QBR throughout this season, and that was without his number 2 receiver, Drew Brees. So who, by the way, for most of his career has been in that slot ahead of Ben Roethlisberger, whoever's the elite of the elite, right? If it's Brady and Peyton and Rodgers, and then the 4th name would be Brees, or the 3rd name would be Brees because it overlaps Peyton and Rodgers, right? And then comes Roethlisberger. I don't think that's changed. So I just don't think there are enough top slots in the top 5 to get Roethlisberger in there. I suppressed the sneeze at the end of that.
I respect. Don't worry about it. It's okay. It happens to me all the time. No big deal, especially with my schnoz. Here's the deal. I would tell you I respectfully disagree with you because I'd have Big Ben Roethlisberger right at number 5. Kyler Murray isn't there yet. He's running the football effectively. I get it, and he's got an arm on him. But when you look at the way that Big Ben Roethlisberger has been playing, although sometimes he makes me nervous, he's thrown for over 300 yards on a few occasions this year. Only 1 game has he failed to complete less than 63% of his passes, and that 1 game was a blowout win against the Cincinnati Bengals, where the Steelers essentially cakewalked to a 36-10 10 victory, which basically didn't even count. So if you look at the model of consistency that he's put forth, completing 67% of his passes, throwing 24 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions, and leading the Steelers to an undefeated season straight off of elbow surgery. I can't say enough about the job that Big Ben Roethlisberger has done this year. A matter of fact, I'd give him a slight nod, possibly over Drew Brees, based on the way Drew Brees was playing. I'm only talking about this season. I'm not talking about career. I'm not talking about next season. I'm only talking about this season. Of course, I'd put Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes right up there. You want to put Drew Brees ahead of him? Fine. I put Ben at number 5, even though I might loop that. I might switch that up and put Big Ben at number 4, Drew Brees at number 5, with obviously the Kyler Murrays